Hi everyone, it's your boy Zach, and I just paid the ultimate price twice to review this movie for you. Um, uh, I was very poor for a very long time, decades basically, mostly most of my adult life until a couple years ago, and I always used to really just agonize over every movie I would see. Uh, I used to live in Corpus and they had a pretty good dollar theater back in the 1990s. But then when I moved to Austin or back to Austin, they didn't really have a good dollar theater. I'd have to go see, the matinees and oh gosh, I just think about it. Well, it wasn't Google back then, Alta Vista, I would Alta Vista it and just, go on the 1990s, forums and message boards and this person says this I don't know no. I very much remember vampires coming out and spending weeks trying to decide whether to see it and then just not seeing it. And then it's the weird thing is it's kind of a movie that's fallen down the memory hole. I don't really remember seeing it on like cable a lot. It didn't pop up on pay-per-view when pay-per-view got big a couple years later. I didn't really see it in a lot of back in the day where you'd go to Best Buy and there'd be like a giant, row. They never really emphasized it. So it kind of fell down the memory hole. I'm not even sure why I thought about it. Anyway, I went to go check it out and it's not on Amazon. Well, it's not included with Amazon Prime Video or Netflix, but you can buy it on Amazon Prime. Well, you can, rent it for $3.99 or buy it for like $15-16. And this bothers the hell out of me because we used to have Blockbusters in every neighborhood pretty much. And, I could have gone there and rented it for $1.50, 10 years ago, 8 years ago. And now I got to rent it for $3.99. And then I'm stressing out because I'm busy. I usually watch movies like 5 minutes at a time. So I rented it and it ran out. And I only got like a third of the way through since I was so busy. I mean, I watch movies like 1 to 5 minutes at a time. So then I was doing some traveling and then I had to rent it again. And I absolutely loved it. And I went, it took, well, that didn't take that long, 2.5 minutes. But I'm just trying to emphasize how cheap I am. And the idea that I rented this twice and I'm still very, very happy with us spending like $8 to watch a movie from 20 years ago. That says something about it. So Vampires is very interesting because it's, in one way, it beat a trend and then it kind of caught the downward slide of the trend. And I kind of feel like it outdid everything else. So it was based on I Googled it. Unfortunately, Alta Vista is gone. I Googled it and I guess it was based on a novel from like 1990 called Vampires with a $sign at the end. It's about guys who hunt or, they're paid to hunt vampires by the Catholic Church. By the time it came out, in 1998, it was just called Vampires with an S instead of a $sign. And like I said, it had kind of been, it had been beat to the punch, even though the novel beat Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie and TV show and Dusk Till Dawn and a whole bunch of other, lower level retreads. It seems like it kind of beat the trend and then jumped on the bandwagon at the end of the trend. There have been lots of shows where cool people hunt vampires. And the thing I love about this is first of all, it's a really, really simple movie. And if you watch it, you're going to laugh because you're just so used to CGI, Blade fighting 500 people or the Dusk Till Dawn guys. It's like, what is it, like 3 or 4 of them against a whole bar of like 100 vampires. You're just used to, Blade spinning around, Kate Beckinsale spinning around, like that, just taking these things out so easily. And every vampire kill, and there's not a lot of kills. In fact, at one point they're like, this is the biggest nest that's ever existed, and it was something like 17 vampires. You know what I mean? Like, this is something that Buffy and like her little sister would have dispatched before the first commercial break. And it was like, you got to see it to believe it. So it starts off and it's this team, it's like this kind of like unwieldy team. It's like 10 to 12 guys. And they go and they take out a nest, and the nest is not big. I think there's like 5 vampires in the nest. And one of the things I love is they just get right into it. And you're like, I've seen this, the cool people, and they're going to have like these little catchphrases. They're going to have all these gimmicky weapons. And now they do have that. But I mean, like, literally every single thing, these people are terrified because this is a really dangerous profession. Nobody's making any. Well, James Woods makes some quips, but usually he's just kind of cursing and screaming and barking orders. He's like a good leader. You can see at one point, he's like, I'll take a point. But you can also see that this job is so dangerous that people take turns, walking point, just like back in the day in Vietnam or something like that. And there's so much dramatics on just like walking up to a door, turning the handle quietly. Oh, it squeaked. Peeking in. Oh, you come. Oh, okay. And it just makes it really, really dramatic. I'm used to all this cutesy pie, Whedon, Marvel. I mean, I did the Blade movies a couple weeks ago, and I was like, they're pretty good, But everything's so easy. They're just like these goofy villains, and like this is like spooky. So what ends up happening is they've just been taking out kind of like lower level vampires, but they go up against the first one, which is called Valak. And you might say, yeah, isn't that the same plot as Blade Trinity? Yeah, pretty much, except for Valak is pretty powerful. There's some good. So this is a John Carpenter movie. And when I Googled it, it said it was the only financially successful John Carpenter movie of all of the 1990s, which I actually thought Escape from LA did good, but maybe it was so expensive that it didn't really make a profit. I call it a movie. It feels like a TV show. It feels like a TV movie, and it doesn't even feel like a full TV movie. Like, it's, no pun intended, very low stakes. We're talking about, so the first team that almost all gets slaughtered except for 2 guys. It's James Woods and Daniel Baldwin, who's freaking excellent. Yeah, I know he's the chubby brother, but man, he's a really good actor. So it gets reduced to 2 people, those 2 guys, and then they meet up with Sherilyn Fenn from Twin Peaks, and she's basically this escort who gets bitten, but she got bit by a master vampire, so she can see through his eyes and kind of give hints. So they basically use her as like a compass or something like that. The thing I love about this movie is it's so like blue collar. At one point, Valak comes and he slaughters their whole team, and they're just running away. And then they wreck a truck, and then they've got to steal a car, but they steal like this beater car. And then first they just walk down the street. They just like, if I remember correctly, they just like hitchhike down to a gas station. And at one point, it's literally, they're just freaking sitting, waiting for someone to rob. And like, they'll show this whole scene, and they rob. It's like a real simple robbery, but like, they don't just like, give me the car. It's like, are you serious? Like, it feels kind of like, this is what it would be like. It wouldn't be Blade. It wouldn't be cutesy pie Whedon talk. It'd just be like this really grimy, dangerous blue collar job that nobody really wants. So then we get to see, they report back into the Vatican. We get to see, that James Woods, as gnarly as he is, he seems to actually be a believer. They're fighting evil for the force, of God and the church. Spoilers, go see it. Okay, you're back. Then they ended up, getting this priest, but he doesn't like it. So he's like, James Woods, whose name is Jack Crow, but I just call him James Woods. You never look at this guy as anyone else but James Woods. It doesn't feel like he's playing a character. It just feels like this is an alternate dimension where there are, vampires, and James Woods, instead of being an actor, he just went and he ended up fighting vampires for the Vatican. So they get this Padre, young guy, to add to the team, and James Woods thinks there's some conspiracy. Their position was given away, so he ends up like beating up the priest, and a lot of this is, so there's this whole middle part where it's just James Woods beating up and torturing the priest and then learning to trust him. And then it's Daniel Baldwin basically like slapping around and tying up Sherilyn Fenn and then falling in love with her and also getting bitten and turned into vampires. So they ended up forming this little team, closing in on Valak. And again, like I had to emphasize how like changing a tire on the side of the road, their killing style. So their killing style is to go into a nest and then they basically shoot a harpoon into one of these vampires. Then Daniel Baldwin sits in a Jeep with a winch on it and he pulls him out into the sun. At one point, the winch breaks down, so he just drives like, this is like how your dad would kill vampires. He would just be like, oh, we're gonna get a winch, gotta get a 4-wheel drive. Like it's very like dad blue collar. Freaking love it. It just looks cool. So I read like why people did it. I mean, whenever someone says like this is why I did a movie, I'm like, because you're an actor and you just audition every day and they're paying you. James Woods basically said this is my first chance to be an action hero. He was in The Specialist, but he was a bad guy. The Specialist is, I've never been able to finish that movie. And then John Carpenter said, I want to do a Western. And that's what it is. There's like this whole swath of this movie that's just driving around in these, two pretty cool, it's like what do you call it? When you go and pick up the money from the bank, one of those big vans, armored vans, and then a pretty cool 4-wheel drive Jeep. Wait, are all Jeeps 4-wheel drive? Probably. My buddy's got his kids over, so that's why you're hearing commotion over in the other room. But there's all these just like kind of like driving around, walking on the side of the road. It is a Western. At one point they go into a town and where kind of the big end showdown is at, and they're doing that little, if you ever watched the Western where they show the guy riding to town and then they'll show his point of view as like the locals kind of stare and shut the shutters and stuff like that. I was like, yeah, this is fun. Daniel Baldwin, he has like a vest and like a denim shirt like a cowboy. I actually kind of forgot how high-waisted jeans are. James Woods, he's like super skinny, but he's kind of like wiry and tough looking. He's got like a leather jacket, black t-shirt, and he's got like this like 1990s jeans that go way high-waisted, but he looks cool. They give him this like weird plasticky crossbow, but most of the time he just has like a simple, I don't know, it's like a 9mm or something like that. But then you have the classic thing where a friend is turning into a vampire, but he's hiding it, but he's helping out, and it's just really, really good. There's this cool kind of bond between Daniel Baldwin and James Woods. They're not like like bros forever. Like it's kind of like a boss underling type of thing. Daniel Baldwin's, he's like the number 2 who has to do all like the scut work, and but it's cool. At one point, they're kind of, arguing because Daniel Baldwin's fallen in love with Sherilyn Fenn, but to James Woods, she's just trash. She's just vampire trash. She's like, why you got to be an asshole? And then they're about to get in this fight. Then the Padre breaks it up. And he's like, you know what's happening? He's like, and James Woods says like, yeah, we're about to get in a really awesome fight. And, the other thing about James Woods, first of all, he's freaking fantastic. And then I read about it. And, he's James Woods. He's kind of like a big deal, but he's also kind of like ornery, smart guy. So he made a deal with John Carpenter. He goes, I'm going to do one take. That's exactly how it's written in the script. And then I'm going to vamp, I'm going to improv. And so it's pretty obvious, to tell what the improvs are, but they're good. They work. They fit the character. Other thing I was kind of talking about John Carpenter before I got distracted. This is probably the only John Carpenter movie where I like the whole thing. Now, no pun intended, I've never seen The Thing all the way through. So I've heard that's really good. But the other John Carpenter movies I've seen, like, first of all, they're usually lit like really, really cheap. Like TV style or like almost like a game show. Like cheap looking sets. And the other thing is like they're kind of like cool when you hear about it and you look at the poster. like Escape from New York and Escape from LA. But then when you watch it, like they just don't quite live up to like what you hear from, I don't know, like Red Letter Media or those. I've always been hearing like my whole like, oh, he's a cult hit. I never really got it. I would say actually this movie is like the least cult hit. Like it doesn't have affectations. It's not being cutesy or clever. It's like it's really straightforward. It actually looks pretty good. And while I don't remember this being any kind of a hit or even a success, apparently it was very low budget, and then it had like a moderate success, and it was like the highest profit. And I totally see that. Like it's really really good. It ends like in a classic kind of like ironic western ending, and it's fantastic. I freaking loved Sherilyn Fenn is great. I mean, I only know her from Twin Peaks and this, but one of the things is this is just supposed to be like some like skank, but in half of it she's either like doped up or she's turning or she's just in terror. Her like she imbues so much humanity in this character. I think on the page it would be really hard to understand how Daniel Baldwin fell in love with her. I mean, she's either like tied up and just terrified, or she's starting to like lose her mind because she's turned into a vampire. But the way she acts, I totally get it. So anyway, go check it out. Yes, you do have to. The only way I can find it. Oh, supposedly it's free on like Crackle right now. So I guess if you have basic cable and you have Crackle, you can watch it there. But I had to pay like $3.99, but it was totally worth it. And I paid $3.99 twice, and I usually hate doing that. So anyway, thanks for watching. And I think the next thing I'm going to review is the season finale of Flash. I heard it was pretty solid. Thanks for watching. Bye.